What's going on, guys? It's Stribbers and welcome to episode 2 of PGR2 Road to Platinum in the arcade mode. So in the last episode we did the first 4 races of the street race section, and we're going to be continuing that today with the next 4 races. So we've got races 5 to 8 in the classic Grudge group. So this means we'll be using cars from the modern era of when the game was released anyway, against the more classic cars, and then vice versa in the last 2 races you'll be using the classic car against the modern cars. So in the first race we've got 3 laps and we are in the Honda S2000 against some pretty bad handling classic cars. That being said though, I think they are quicker in a straight line. And this is pretty decent around the corners. This took me a little while to get used to the handling of this compared to the cars that we have been using, because the S2000 does handle really well. It's just down on power to the rest of the group, and this straight is not going to help us out. So as you can see, we're in 4th place at the moment. Had a little bit of a collision around that corner before the straight, which set us back a bit, but we're going to make some time up through the corners, taking that nice and close to the apex there. Coming up to this Ferrari, which I'm not sure which model this is. I have to go around it. Is that the Dino? I think it's the Dino, which isn't a particularly quick car. And then I think there's a Jag in front of that, and then the Lancia in front of that. They're all fairly close together, which is good for us, and we get a good exit of that corner. So we're able to just brush the Dino aside there with ease. Into 3rd place, crossing the line for the 2nd lap. So we'll be able to catch this Jag up on the corners, as it doesn't handle particularly well. The Lancia handles quite a bit better, but I think the Jag's quite a bit faster in a straight line than the Lancia. We'll have to have a look here. So we managed to take the Jag on the inside there, draft behind the Lancia, go for the little overtake manoeuvre, although it's not really going to work, and you can see the Jag flying there into the back of both of us, not doing himself any favours at that point. Although it does mean he gets ahead of that Lancia, but we get into the lead. So overall this isn't too hard, this one. You do have to drive quite consistently though, otherwise those 2 cars we've just seen will get away. And I'm having some trouble getting around this section of the track, which I always have difficulty with. That tight section is really difficult to do sometimes. But nevertheless, they didn't overtake me, and still managing to maintain that healthy distance in the lead. We'll see exactly how much it is here. 1.2 seconds, so just got to do one more lap now of the same sort of driving, hopefully without the crashing. Seeing if we can start pulling away a bit more. It seems to be about the same on this point. This is the section of the track with more straights. We can take the exit, or the entry, sorry, to the straight at a quicker speed, obviously because of the better turning, but then as soon as it gets towards the end, the other cars start winding up and catching up. You can see there, this Honda S2000 actually probably oversteers a little bit. It goes, you think it's going to understeer, and then you whip the car round and it starts turning in too much, so you have to adjust sometimes, otherwise you're going to hit the barrier. And you can see the Lancia quarters right up there, hitting us from behind and nearly pushing us into the barrier to ruin our race, but luckily we just about got away with that, and he drops behind now, so that's quite nice that we managed to keep in the lead there, crossing the line, and there is that one done. 1,392 for the in-game kudos. So there are all the classic cars we were against. 5th and 6th place, never going to really challenge us. Also the Dino, not too challenging either, so it's really the Lancia and the Jag that's going to be the worst part of that. So we move on to Street Race 6, and we are in the Porsche 911 Carrera, the Coupe variation of this, in Sydney, again against the classic cars in the more modern car. So we've got another Porsche that we're going to overtake because we are quicker, and then there's that Mercedes 300 SL, which we can also just about get before the straight, or the corner, sorry, getting pinned against the wall but managing to get out there. And then we've got the Ferrari 275 in front of us, Let's see if we can catch both these cars ahead. And the car that's going to give you the most trouble in this one is that Stingray in front. But luckily, even though there are quite a few straight sections, there's quite a few technical sections as well. And that's where you're going to make your time up on this one. Because as you can see on the straight, the Stingray absolutely bolts away, leaving us for dead. But we all know how bad that Stingray handles, sliding around all the corners, and this Porsche is very stable. It's one of the best cars we've driven so far in the arcade mode. Making up loads of ground on these corners. And I overcooked that a little bit, going too far to the inside. I wasn't sure if that barrier was coming up there or not, but on that roundabout bit, follow the line they take, because it gives you a better entry into this corner, as you can swing round a bit more instead of going too tight to there. But you can see again on the straight how far he's getting ahead, and I massively misjudged that braking line there, really braking far too late and sliding, so losing some time on the Corvette there, really trying to reel them in as best we can. Again, with the arcade mode, it does take a little bit of time to get used to each car you drive, because you will be driving a new one in every race, so it does take a little bit of time to get used to it. Luckily though, this Porsche is quite easy to get used to. Seen behind, there's nothing really in contention with us, and this is the corner we're going to make a lot of ground. It's got terrible brakes, the Corvette, and pretty poor steering as well, so we're trying our best to get it. But even in the draft zone, you can see he's just absolutely pulling away there. Bit of a monster in a straight line, that car. Yeah, the car behind us is 4.6 seconds, so yes, we are quite far ahead of third place. And can we finally make this move? As you see, he didn't move out the way for some reason and brake, even though he was kind of in the middle of a straight section. But I'm not going to complain about that. That means we can just pass him and then try and get away so he doesn't catch us back up on the straight. And I was looking behind me there, which meant I went a bit wide on that corner. But you can see on this section again, he is catching right up. Need to hold him off before this corner, because we can brake later than him. Able to outbrake him, taking that corner a lot better this lap. As you can see, we start pulling away out of here onto the main straight before the finish. So we've just got one more lap to try and build a nice lead on him. As you can see, it's quite a big lead now, 2 seconds. I'm not sure exactly what happened to the Stingray on that corner before the finish line. He must have done something dodgy, because I wouldn't have made 2 seconds on him there. It's quite a big margin. Nearly colliding with the barrier around that corner. That was a little bit close. But going back onto the longest straight in this race, and we are sort of losing him at this point, 3.7 seconds. So as you can see, with pretty okay driving, you can drop him. I'd say it's one of the easiest ones we've done so far, this one. It all comes down to which cars you choose, and well, which cars are in the race, should I say, not what you choose. Which cars they choose to put in the races really makes a difference, because they obviously have to stick to the themes they've got going on. So we'll have to see if it carries on through the rest of the street races, if there is the same sort of themes where you use 2 cars from one description and then 2 cars from another. So as I've said, we've done the 2 modern cars with these 2 events, and then in the next 2 events we'll be in the 2 classic cars, and they will be in the modern cars. So again, it's quite interesting, something different to think about. But that's that event done. Miles behind he was, can't even see him in the rear view mirror. And we get a clean race as well, which is also pretty nice. There we go. And the Ferrari 275 actually overtook the Stingray in the end. So I think the driver of the Stingray gave up. And the 300 SL is actually still running at this point, and I don't know how far that was behind. Obviously quite far. But moving on to street race number 7 in Yokohama. And speaking of the 275, we are now going to be in that car. So 6 cars in this one. A very strange selection of cars. Got the Porsche Cayenne Turbo. It's funny seeing the SUVs in the other classes. Usually you see them all together, but that one sticks out like a sore thumb, even though that Bentley's quite big as well. And then we've got the Asceni as well to our left. But this has good low-end acceleration, this Ferrari. As you can see, we blitz past most of them on the straight. But there's a Porsche 911, I think it's the GT3 in this one, from the Track Special series, and that has got pretty crazy top speed and high-end acceleration. So we need to try and get as far ahead of that as we can before the main straight. Coming around these more technical sections now. Like I said, luckily we're in the lead at this point, so we just need to not do anything stupid, because these are a lot bigger, these tracks, than the first few races that we did. So taking that nicely there. And this car does understeer quite a bit, and it also slides at the same time. So it sort of starts understeering, and then the understeer turns into a slide, so it's quite hard to control. Got to lift off slightly through that section. You can't go full speed as you will hit the barrier. Drifting around there unintentionally, but we can see that Porsche behind us now. We'll have to see exactly how far he's behind, but it will start to catch on the straights. So he's a good 2 seconds behind. So that is kind of comfortable at this point, as long as we don't do anything silly. And we did brake too late at that point. Need to brake further before the crest of that hill. It's always a difficult one to judge, that one, depending on which car you're in. But this Ferrari doesn't have the best brakes. As you see, we lost a couple tenths there, so he did gain a little bit of time on us. Doing that a little bit too wide, but overall not too bad through there. Key to this one, get ahead as early as you can, which, to be fair, is what you do on every race. Try and get ahead. Try and catch him up on the first corner and avoid all the mess that's going on. The first couple of attempts that I did on this one, I did get pinned on that first corner. And then the Porsche 911, and there's also the Asceni in this one, which can also get away from you. So you've got to keep them in your sights, otherwise it's game over. So getting a good line through there, good exit onto the straight, but as you can see, the 911 is reeling me in a lot closer than the first lap, or the second lap, sorry. 1.5 seconds. So he's gained half a second on us. But hopefully if we do another lap like that, that should be okay. Braking there. But then I accelerated too early and the car full on understeered into the barrier. So I've just invited the Porsche to come and overtake me here with its much better acceleration at this range, but we were able to outbrake him. I did put the brakes on late there, so I was able to dart in front of him again. But he is now in range to try and overtake us, so we've really got to try and defend this lead as best we can. Go around the apex for that corner. And at this range, in third gear, I think we are matched with him, or maybe slightly better, but as soon as we switch to fourth gear, that Porsche really starts pulling, starts reeling us in. So at the moment we're still ahead. Less than a second though, it's not comfortable at this point. Going a bit too slow through there, but we are on the final corner. Sliding around there, and he's right on our tail in the draft zone as well. Luckily the finish line is there and not the end of the straight, because that would have been a little bit of a different story. As you can see him flying past at that point. But anyway, that's the Street Race 7 down. The Asceni finishing 6 seconds behind, so that wasn't really any trouble for us. And that can be hard, that event. It depends, again, how your start goes. If that GT3 does get away, it does make it a little bit more challenging. But we'll move on to the final street race of this episode, Street Race number 8. And this is the most difficult one so far that we have done. As we are in the classic car, the Ferrari Dino GT, which is not the best car in the world. As you can see by the opposition, we've got an MR2 there, an Audi TT, got the Chevrolet SSR, I think it is, that SUV, horrible looking thing, and then in front of that we've got a couple hatchbacks. We've got the Honda Civic Type R and the Renault Clio. So as you can see from the field, they're all relatively low down cars, so that just shows how they value the Dino. Not very quick at all. But this one is all about trying to catch that Renault Clio at the front, because that really does start pulling away with its low end acceleration. Once you can get past this Honda Civic as well, this Dino has got better sort of mid-range acceleration when you get into fourth gear than the Honda Civic. The Civic runs out of steam a little bit, so you can pull ahead of that. But we didn't get quite far enough ahead there, so as we started turning, the Honda Civic started turning in as well, so that sort of spun us out at that point. So we're in second place now, just got to try and catch this Clio up. 2.3 seconds ahead though. Not going to be the easiest thing in the world. I think I had probably around 5 or 6 attempts trying this. Again, it swings on that first corner. If you can get into around third place by the first or second corner, you've got a chance to catch this Civic up. But if you're stuck behind that SUV Chevrolet for a while, then this Clio starts to pull away. So we are making some ground up, and we tend to do this section quicker than the Clio. But then this next section, I can't really get the Dino round here. It starts power sliding when you put the power on that corner there, and then he does this section better as well. Can't quite go full power through there, so we lose time through that section of the track on every lap. And then we sort of gain time through this bit and the bit going up to the finish line. As you can see though, I'm not making much time upon him. Still not close enough for an overtake. Going on 2 wheels around there. We are getting him slightly closer to us, but this Dino doesn't handle the best. It really does power slide a lot, more so than that 275 does. It's quite hard to get the power down, and it doesn't really have too much power anyway, so it's not a good combination really. So we're under a second behind now. Again, starting to power slide before this slalom section, but then round this corner really making some ground on him, and we've got the speed as well, so we are going to go for the move on this corner, able to get him on the outside, or the inside sorry, and use him as the corner a little bit, so that slows him up. So that's good. On the third lap we're managing to get into the lead there. Now I've just got to hold him off through this section that I can't quite go as quick as him through. This corner's going to be the telling one. Again, I'm going sideways and he's coming right through, but luckily he backed off, didn't ram into the side of us. Coming through there nicely. So can we start pulling away now? That's the question. We are in the part of the track that we can start pulling away, as we do drive this section quicker. Have a little look behind in a second, see where he is. 1.1 seconds, so hopefully that should be enough if I don't mess this part up here. Coming through there nicely, and across the line there. But yeah, that event is the most difficult street race we've done so far, I'd say, due to that car selection, and that Renault Clio does get away pretty easily, and it's hard to catch him up with that Dino. But there we go. Another platinum medal down, and street race number 8 down. There's a selection of cars as well. You can see the MR2 was 12 seconds behind, and the big old Chevrolet was 10 seconds behind, so they're not really going to trouble us in that one. But there we go, 7,400 kudos for that event done. And that's going to be it for this episode, guys. So in the next episode, we've got street races 9 to 12 in the power and poise section of this. So I hope you enjoyed it, guys. If you did, please hit that like button. And if you're new, consider subscribing if you want to see more. And I'll see you next time.